Good afternoon, everyone. This is Bob Pompiani, soon to be joined by Missy Matthews. We are live once again at the UPMC Rooney Sports Complex here on the South Side. It's a Victory Tuesday and also a Tomlin Tuesday. Mike Tomlin will address the media here shortly, looking ahead to the Raiders, but also looking back at what was a very physical game last night against the Cleveland Browns. And we thank you for joining us here on KDKA Plus and Steelers digital platforms. The big key last night, defensive, big plays all over the place. The combination of Alex Highsmith and TJ Watt was unstoppable, and the big reason why the Steelers won 26-22. Mike Tomlin is upstairs and ready to go with his press conference. Let's take you there live.
Good afternoon. First, man, how about that environment last night? Man, it never gets old. Monday Night Football, particularly Monday Night Football at Acrisure, being in front of our fans. I just thought the environment was electric. I love the way our guys fought together, fought collectively until the end, made the necessary plays to secure victory against an AFC North opponent, one that we're familiar with, one that's familiar with us. Obviously, in reviewing the game this morning, man, we fall short in a lot of ways. We have things to work on in all three phases, and I'll outline some of that. Offensively, starting there, we have to get our mojo back. We got to get that mojo that we had in the preseason where we're playing fast and fluid with confidence individually and collectively. We've lost that, to be blunt, in the last several weeks. We're not getting the type of fluidity that we want in our starts. We're not teeing up possession down play, not being in advantageous possession down circumstances, and really is making it challenging to sustain drives and to score points. We're not going to have knee-jerk reactions in terms of trying to make wholesale changes in an effort to change that outcome. But we do acknowledge that two is a pattern. We've had two outings that are not up to snuff in that regard, and so it has our attention as we are preparing for this next one. We're all in this thing together, man. We're not assigning blame for anyone. Obviously, it starts with coaching, man. We got to coach better. We got to get these guys playing faster with more fluidity and surer. We got to start faster. We have to play more coordinated, particularly at the early stages of games. We have to anticipate schematics of those that we play against a little bit better. And displaying anticipation is a component of preparedness. They threw some things at us, particularly from a run structure standpoint early in that football game, that created challenges. But you see those type of challenges week in and week out, and when you're playing good, man, you run over those things like speed bumps. And so we have to get to that. We realize that there are no secret formulas in that regard. It's not a wave of a magic wand. What we have to do is continue to work, have to continue to be true to ourselves and each other, and honest about how we're built, how we need to be built, and the things that we need to do in an effort to accentuate our strengths and minimize our weaknesses. Oftentimes those challenges and variables change week to week because the opponent that you play changes week to week. The venue that you play in changes week to week. We could have new sets of issues this week because of venue location, playing on the road, and some of the things that come with that. We can't experience that before we respond to it. We have to have an anticipation, if you will, of some of the challenges that await us in Las Vegas this weekend. And so that just outlines some of the streams of consciousness or some of the things that are going on from a planning perspective as we both analyze what transpired last night, but also prepare for the next opportunity. On the defensive side of the ball, I thought in week one, I thought our communication was strained and it lacked fluidity, and thus we didn't play as collectively fast or as sure or connected as we're capable of. First game out in our home venue, a lot of guys new to us, maybe not necessarily the National Football League, but new to us. We worked harder at that this week. I thought we were better, but I still think we have room for growth. We've been probably granted a reprieve in that regard as a defense goes into a road game venue. We should be able to communicate better and clearer and things of that nature. As another case in point, talking about venue variables. We still have the issues of explosion runs. We gave up another big explosive run in this game, and you just simply can't do that if you want to play the type of defense that we desire to play and need to play. Field positioning, forget points. Field positioning is a major component of play. I thought particularly in the second half, we kept them on the long field, and the punting units and things had a lot to do with that. But the field positioning, a component of that, is a specific reason why we can't have that. But just the ground control component, we got to be better than we've been. Obviously, last night we played without Cam, and I'm proud of some of the efforts of some of the guys who had expanded roles. But we just got to continue to find our footing on this side of Cam's presence and have the ability to minimize the run. And obviously, it doesn't get any easier this week with Jacobs, man, and that group over there. Before I start into those guys, I'll talk injury a little bit. Gunner is in the concussion protocol. Don't have a lot of details there. Minka was taken to the hospital last night as a precaution based on the information that I have here today. They feel good about where he is. We'll see where the week leads us. Elandon Roberts went out of the game with a stinger. He lost strength. Usually that comes back to you in a number of days, and so we'll watch him at the early stages of this. And some of the other bumps and bruises associated with play are just starting to work their way into the building, and we're starting to get some clarity there. We got a short week in that regard, and so, usually on a short week, those that are dealing with injury, man, it's a tougher train to get on. We'll make plans around those that are healthy and available to us. And again, while we're talking about injury, I'll reiterate the point that I made last night, man. Well wishes go out to Nick Chubb. We're in the AFC North. We're competitors. But we got a lot of respect for that man as a player and as a man. You like to compete against guys like him. You like to beat guys like him. But you certainly don't want to see catastrophic injury. And so we're sending our best to he and his teammates, and specifically as he deals with the injury that he is faced with. Now I turn my attention toward the Vegas Raiders. Looking at them on the offensive side of the ball, man, we got to deal with some dangerous eligibles. We got to find a delicate balance of working to minimize Jacobs while not exposing ourselves to the exploits of 17. That's something that we were trying to manage a year ago. That's something that everyone tries to manage, I'm sure, when they play these guys. But they have some other pieces who are really solid as well. They got a tight end, Hooper, that's been a big acquisition for them, and we know how big the tight end position is systematically in terms of what they do. They do a really good job of interior matchups in the slot receiver position. When you put too much attention outside, they're really good in the play-action passing game. They're also really good and thoughtful and intentional about spreading you out in the rhythm passing game. We've been in the stadium with these guys, like I mentioned, a few times, and so we do have some familiarity there that could aid us at the initial stages of preparation on a short week, but we better not take any of those things for granted. They're familiar with us as well. On the defensive side of the ball, looking at what they're doing defensively, obviously it starts with guys like Max Crosby, guys that can change a climate in an instant. We've faced some of these challenging guys over the course of the first 2 weeks, and we've done a largely solid job of minimizing those, whether it's Bosa or Miles last night. Max is just as challenging. We've been in the stadium with him before. I think he had 4 hits on the quarterback a year ago. We just can't allow that to happen. Robert Spillane is their new guy in the middle on the second level. Happy for Rob, got a lot of respect for Rob. Rob's hardworking, he's smart, he's tough, he's a really good communicator. I don't think any of us are surprised that that he has ascended within that group and has assumed a leadership-like position that he's assumed within that group. In the study of the video, I can't say enough about their nickel. Hobbs, man, he plays a really complete game. He's good in coverage. He's good versus the run. He's a good blitzer and tackler. He plays really good football, man. They're really comfortable in nickel with just about any personnel group you throw out there, and I just think it speaks to his talents and his makeup. It's very similar to how maybe Buffalo plays with their nickel or Cincinnati plays with Mike Hilton. When you have a high-quality nickel that is good in the run game and a good blitzer, you're really comfortable in a lot of circumstances, and their tape displays that. I think they got some real good corner play. Marcus Peters, obviously we're familiar with, former Baltimore Raven. Bennett is a top-flight young rookie who's playing really good football. Opposite of him from the University of Maryland, looked at him in the draft, and he's playing really good. But for us, as I mentioned several times throughout this, man, it's about the upward trajectory of our group, the continued growth and development, particularly at the early stages of the season for us, individually and collectively, the ability to deal with things as we see them this week, the environmental component, playing on the road and what that means, couple time zones and things of that nature. We're changing our travel itinerary in an effort to find optimum, play. And so we got a lot of irons in the fire, man. We got a short time in which to prepare. Because of that, we're preparing with an edge. Excited about getting back in the AFC Stadium, man, and working to stack another AFC victory this week. I'll pause and open it up for questions.
Mike, how does the offense get its mojo back? Is it how you game plan with schematics? I know it's execution, of course, but how do you do it?
It's all of the above. We got to put them in really good circumstances. They have to recognize those circumstances and perform. And so you can say it in a small number of words, but really it's a procedure. It's a procedure that transpires over the course of 6 days. It's planning from a coaching perspective. It's teaching and learning from a player and coach perspective in a classroom setting, walkthrough setting. There's an execution component of it that's played out in reps in practice. You have a limited number of those, and so you better be thoughtful and intentional about how you utilize them, not only what you run, but the schematics that you're presenting to them on the other side and their ability to absorb it and learn and understand and gain confidence and thus individually and collectively play fast and fluid and make the type of splash plays that we're talking about. And so you can say it in a small number of words, but it's a procedure that's played out over the course of a week or so, and there's many layers to it, and I'm excited about getting back to work this week.
Mike, Jaylen Warren was especially effective in the receiving game yesterday. How, if at all, do you tweak the running back snap distribution going forward?
You know, we'll see what this week holds for us in terms of our planning. We acknowledge that Jaylen is a significant player and a guy that's capable of being a significant component of what we do, as is Naj, and we'll do what we do every week. We'll make decisions about how we divvy up the labor based on what's most advantageous in an effort to create victory this week.
What has helped Jaylen kind of be more effective in the last two games, but especially last night?
You know, he's just making plays when given the opportunity, and I think that's a reasonable expectation. There's a guy that did similar things as a young guy a year ago and as a rookie and has done some really good things in the team development process. And so it's probably a natural maturation process for it to transpire in stadium, and it's probably a natural maturation process for us to give him more opportunities for it to transpire in stadium. And I think you can say the same thing about all the younger guys that are building upon performances. Joey Porter played 7 plays in the first game, didn't get much action, played more plays last night, got some more action, made some more plays, and thus is reasonable to expect the process to continue to feed itself.
Mike, when you've got so many young skill position players on offense who expect to make a big step this year and they struggle out of the gate, do you worry about that affecting their confidence?
You do, but there's a lot of things that you worry about. It can't paralyze you, and it certainly can't paralyze us in terms of training them and demanding that they continue to work and position themselves to be what they're capable of being and what we need them to be.
Like the playing fast and a fluid aspect you talked about a couple times, is that restricted to just the players themselves operating more quickly as individuals, or does playing with more tempo, more pace, more no huddle, does that help?
The collective. When I'm saying fast and fluid, I'm talking about in play, in decision making, in operation between downs. So I'm talking all of the above, certainly.
Like, beyond just the distribution of carries, how do you assess what you've gotten from the run game through the first 2 games?
Man, it hadn't been what we desire. It wasn't in week 1 because we didn't win enough possession downs, and we've talked openly about that. I thought last night it was just too much negativity, particularly at the early stages, lost yardage plays and things of that nature that get you out of kilter individually and collectively.
Like you mentioned, starting slow on third downs in the first week, and then it was 2 turnovers and a 3-and-out on your first couple drives. What can you do differently or better in those first drives of the game to get off to a better start on offense?
Again, like I've said, I've outlined it repeatedly. It's the procedure. It's a limited number of words, but it's the procedure that's played out over 6 or 7 days in preparation.
I guess I'm asking, is there anything different maybe about that?
Certainly.
When it comes to just those early plays?
Certainly. Yes.
Mike, with Mika, I just want to clarify, is he out of the hospital now? Or is he still there?
Yeah, he's in our training room as we speak.
Why was he sent there? What exactly happened?
Precautionary reasons. He had a chest injury. They wanted to exercise an abundance of precaution, and so they took him to the hospital.
Mike, you mentioned something about anticipating schematics and gave a defensive example. That goes for the same thing on the offensive side of the ball, and how do you do that without, tossing out the game plan in game?
What is your question? I'm sorry?
Anticipating the schematics, can you do that on offense as well? I mean, you know how you were talking about anticipating schematics on defense with the big guys, make the change. Can you do that on the offensive side of the ball where they give you something, and can you change, make flow there as well?
Absolutely. In-game adjustments are a major component of kind of what we do, and probably from a coach's perspective, your ability to anticipate the potential of that, to tee up that, thus making it more fluid when it happens. And I think I was talking about Cleveland's defense earlier and some of the things that they were able to do schematically. And so certainly on the flip side, they always do things, they played in joker or 4 wides and a tight end on offense more than we anticipated last night, probably born out of, obviously, Nick Chubb's injury. But they gave us a lot of 4 wides and tight ends. It made us make some adjustments midstream and to our menu selection and how we matched up in those circumstances. And those type things occur week in and week out.
Mike, those changes you were talking about on offense, is that something that takes time to develop over weeks, or how do you accelerate? What's the key to accelerating change offensively?
It just depends on the complexities of it. Sometimes it's one conversation. Sometimes it's work required, particularly when it's coordinated and technical and a collective thing.
Do you think it's a conversation or something that can be?
Oh, no, so it's more than a conversation, certainly. Yeah.
Like the offensive line that you mentioned, you guys were able to limit Nick Bosa to just 2 tackles, Garrett to just 1. Is there a level of maybe the offensive line focus so much on those guys that they're making mistakes in other areas, and that's what you guys have to clean up?
We have to be able to multitask. You got to be able to minimize significant players while not compromising things that you value, personality, et cetera. That's just football at this level.
Is that part of your evaluation of the offensive line as far as cleaning up, protecting Kenny Pickett and also creating more space in the run game?
I wasn't evaluating them exclusively in those statements. I was talking about us, the collective.
Mike George having 10 targets, is that a function of not having Deontay Johnson, or is that what needs to happen more like that for this offense to get going?
Probably a little bit of both based on what transpired, the variables last night. But again, every time you step into a stadium, the variables may differ based on planning.
Did you receive an explanation from Gunner on why he didn't let that ball go out of bounds on the kickoff?
I did not. Sometimes I don't ask questions because I don't want to hear excuses.
Mike, what more do you need to see from Kenny Pickett specifically this week?
I just want to see him continue to work in the manner in which he's been working, continue to communicate in the manner in which he's been communicating, and lead his group. He's done a lot of things well in preparation performance. He could play better. We all could play better. But procedurally, I like what I see from him. And usually when a guy procedurally is in the right spot, the performance soon follows.
Pickens in his performance, particularly catching some balls over the middle and getting some yards after catch. I know there's an agenda for you guys this year to get some of that. Was that more allowable this week because of matchup-related things, or was that just a desire on your guys' part to make that happen this week?
Both.
Mike, you talked about the environment you saw at the game. Those same fans also in the second half, fourth quarter, showed their displeasure with your offensive coordinator. What do you say to those fans in the stands that are upset?
Man, I appreciate their passion. I share their passion. We all do. Man, we love our fans, man. They inspire us. They challenge us. It's an awesome relationship. Man, we don't run from challenges. We run to challenges. This is the sport entertainment business. It is our job to win and thus entertain them. And so, we don't begrudge them for that. We want them to be fat and sassy and spoiled. It is our job.
Mike, you share their passion. Do you share their concern about the way Matt's preparing the offensive play?
I don't share their concern because of my perspective. I'm a part of the process. When you're a part of the process, it's less troublesome to you.
Anyone else? Mike, defensive line, Benton, Liel, those guys filling in for Cam. You're able to figure out how they played?
I appreciate the efforts. Obviously, we need better results. We're giving up too many yards via the run.
Forced a key hold on a third down that they would have converted, and then forced a key fumble. How has he stepped up from game 1 to game 2?
Much like the other guys that are new to us, as I mentioned, I just thought I saw more fluidity in his play, more sureness in how he communicated, and more comfort in the environment, which is a reasonable expectation. But he and we have to keep working.
There were a few times Kenny seemed to be holding onto the ball and throwing the ball in dangerous situations that maybe he didn't need to. What are you guys looking at to try to help him figure out when to take better risks and when to?
There are a lot of dangerous circumstances in our business. I don't know what you're specifically referring to, but we make no excuses. We have to perform better. We didn't perform as well as we would like last night. We performed well enough to win, but we don't run from that. We run to that. We'll keep working. In the meanwhile, we have absorbed the negativity that comes with the quality of our performance. We'll keep our mouth shut. We'll make no excuses, and we'll see you at a stadium real soon.
Mike, when you challenged the quarterback sneak with Watson, were you challenging the spot initially? Did you know he had fumbled when you?
Yes.
Yes, what?
I knew he had fumbled.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Was Minka hurt on the dive on the forward run, or was that residue from the Chubb collision?
Specifically, what took him out of the game the second time, I am not certain.
Mike, TJ became the all-time sack leader in 89 games. What is it that allows him to be so good?
TJ, DNA, will, talent, commitment, a lot of things. This is a good environment and system for him. It's a lot of things that produce performance. Obviously, we're really excited about having him and appreciate what he does, but it's a lot of variables to that discussion. But he is a key component of any component of that discussion.
Mike, there were a lot of changes to the secondary this offseason. How's that group coming together through the first 2 games?
Again, I've outlined it a lot in this setting. We don't have collective experience. We've been at home for 2 games. It's challenging to communicate. And so there's been some growth there. It needs to continue.
Mike, speaking specifically on the secondary last night, when Minka Fitzpatrick went out, how did you see Devontae Casey, Keanu Neal, and Elijah Riley stepping up to fill? He's such an important factor for you guys.
I like their efforts. I thought both guys, all the guys that you mentioned, did a nice job of working to communicate and making necessary plays. But as is the case when you're replacing a guy like Minka, man, it's not a one-man job. It's a multiple-man job. And we called on several people last night, and I'm sure, that's the case when when you miss a guy of that level of significance, just like it's the case when you're playing without Cam Hayward.
The interception last night. We also saw him have a really nice rep against Stephon Diggs in the preseason. Have you seen that sort of coverage ability for him as an area of growth that maybe something you might?
I'm sorry, who are you referring to?
Highsmith.
Yeah.
He gets the interception. He had that pass breakup against Diggs in the preseason. Did you see that coming for him? Is that
we're appreciative of his coverage, but we pay him to get to the quarterback. We change things up every now and then for balance. We'll ask him to drop. We'll ask TJ to drop. But you guys know what they do. They're edge rushmen.
Mike, the challenge you lost, the scoreboard might not have shown you the entire picture with the first.
It did not, but I thought the third step maybe was a second step because I didn't think he caught the ball cleanly. And so I knew what step I was looking at. I just didn't know when he had possession of the ball or whether they thought he caught it cleanly because of the disruption provided by the corner. And so it being a field position play, they were backed up. As significant as it was in the game, wasn't about to let them get by without confirming that. And so that's the backstory there.
At the end of the first half, you guys called a timeout after letting several seconds tick by on their third down right before their field goal. Was that part of the plan as far as you guys just wanted to get into the half, or would you look back at that? Do you want to give your offense another chance to come out on the field after that?
No, it was about getting what we wanted for field goal block and that only. There was no other component of the equation beyond the next down, the field goal down. Wanted to make sure that we had the appropriate amount of people on the field and that we were doing what we wanted to do in an effort to make that kick a miss.
Like a game like last night that features so much emotion, what are some of the challenges in kind of turning the page quickly on this short week here?
It's always a challenge. Man, we're always moving forward, regardless of outcome. That's the beautiful component of what we do. The urgency of it, I love it. Everybody has got to turn the page that played in the game this past weekend and move to the next one. And your ability to do so oftentimes defines the journey in you. And so it doesn't matter whether it's emotional or unemotional or successful or failure or home and road. Each week, man, we got to quickly transition and get singularly focused and learn the lessons from our past experiences, but get focused on what lies ahead. And so that's just a function of what it is that we do.
Anyone else? All right.
Thanks, guys.
All right, there you go. Mike Tomlin with his Tuesday press conference. Bob Pompiani now joined by Missy Matthews. It's very unusual to see a team win a game when it doesn't get chances in the red zone. Not in the red zone, but this defense was so good last night, and you heard Mike Tomlin say about Alex Highsmith, we pay him to get to the quarterback. He and Watt got to the quarterback. 6 sacks, 2 defensive scores, a lot of pressure. That's what they're all about.
Yeah, you have to go back to 2010, the last time the Steelers had 2 defensive touchdowns in a game. Lamar Woodley, Troy Polamalu, names you would associate with that type of defense. So they definitely helped. You heard from the offensive players last night. Thankful for the defense, but a lot of things Coach went over today that need to be corrected on a short week before they head to Las Vegas.
Yeah, it's a big game coming up on the road. The first time on the road this year for the Steelers. Missy and I will come back. We'll talk about that. We'll look back at some of the big plays from last night. And in case you missed some of this press conference, we'll play back some of the key sound bites from Mike Tomlin today. We're just getting started. It's a Tomlin Tuesday. We're live right here on KDK Plus and all Steeler digital platforms. Don't go away.
Calling all football enthusiasts. Immerse yourself in the captivating world of the Steelers at the new Steelers Hall of Honor Museum located inside Acrisure Stadium. Explore over 10,000 square feet of history where interactive videos, music, and engaging exhibits await. Feel the thrill of the broadcast booth as you make your mark on a historic Steelers play call. Plus, get up close to the iconic Super Bowl rings, game-worn uniforms, and priceless artifacts. Plan your visit today at Steelers.com/museum.
The challenge, the way you responded to their challenge of how they blitz and just continuously try to bring pressure.
Yeah, you got to stay at it. They're a really tough team. They got a lot of pressure. They brought some different things that we saw on tape, some we didn't. So hats off to them. Great defense, but I like the way we adjusted on the sideline. Guys are communicating well. There's definitely positives to take from it. As much as there is negatives, there is positives, and we got to continue to put our best foot forward and get ready to go Sunday night.
What was the biggest challenge? Looked like for a lot of the game they were close to the line of scrimmage. Even the last guy was 10, 12 yards off the ball. How does that?
Yeah, they got they got great guys up front. Their linebackers run really well. They got great guys in the secondary. They gave guys fits last week. We had our hands full with them this week, so it was a different challenge opposing to the week before we had against San Fran. But happy the way guys played on the outside. George made some great plays. We'll get the run game going here and get balanced and continue to do some things play action wise.
Emphasis to get George involved. It seemed like that's kind of game target-wise, production-wise.
Yeah, it was tough. They did a good job. That pick early in the game, it was funnel, and 22 passed off Pat and jumped inside on him. So there was a lot of times he was getting doubled. It was tough to get him the football, but whenever we had that opportunity of one-on-one, I really wanted to get him the ball and let him do his thing. So that's something we got to continue to take advantage of, getting him singled up, moving him around, being creative, and finding ways to get him the football.
You mentioned needing to stay on the field. You had some drives that you were able to sustain, others that were cut short. Just what's kind of the discrepancy, or is there anything you can put your finger on that are the difference in those?
Yeah, the one play that gets us behind the chains, it seems like that we're moving the football, we're having plays, we're getting explosive plays, and then we have that one negative that sets us behind the chains, and we don't execute after that. So we got to eliminate those plays, continue to move the ball forward.
Boy, oh boy, this crowd is alive. Wow. This has got to be a moment to be shared with everybody. Great catch with another magic moment. And this crowd's in a frenzy.
Offensively, starting there, we have to get our mojo back. We got to get that mojo that we had in the preseason, where we're playing fast and fluid with confidence individually and collectively. We've lost that, to be blunt, in the last several weeks. We're not getting the type of fluidity that we want in our starts. We're not teeing up possession down play.
Mike Tomlin made a point of talking about mojo and getting it back. And last night, Missy, after really a bad performance offensively in week one, the first 5 possessions resulted in 1 first down again. And I can imagine on the road, you can't start like that on a regular basis. You're going to lose most games.
Yeah, I think, it was just frustrating seeing what happened week one. Everyone said we were surprised that was the result that we had offensively, but then you go into week 2 and you're seeing some of the same things. Even with the run game, in terms of offensively, Coach talked about too much negativity, not being able to have it balanced, getting the pass game going. Yes, we did see George Pickens finally get involved in that aspect, but there's just not a rhythm. It doesn't seem like it's gelling as we thought it would coming out of the preseason, so something they have to fix. You're going against Max Crosby, guys like that again this week. So something that they have to work on for sure.
Yeah, if you look at the numbers too, they had some big plays. 7 of their plays combined for 202 yards, but then 46 snaps resulting in 53 yards. Chris Adamski of the Trib put that out, and I thought it was very much indicative of what we saw. They could not move the ball largely. When they did, it was a big chunk that happened.
Right, and 4 of 14 on third downs, something that Coach Tomlin stressed week one in terms of those weighty downs, and it just felt like they couldn't get anything going. The Steelers defense has 2 touchdowns, same as the Steelers offense. That's not the ratio, the number you want to have heading into week 3.
And last night it was defense outscoring offense. That has to change. And certainly you want your defense to make big plays, and that was the difference of this game. And that's how you win a game that offensively you may look at and say there's no business winning. But some of the decisions made here, they have to get better. And Kenny Pickett, I thought, was better last night, but not by much. He needs to continue to get on that. I thought his 71-yard throw to George Pickens was a very good progression move by Pickett, where he looked the safety off, moved him with his eyes, and created a little bit of space.
But you still need to see that more often as well, and something that we're just not seeing. That's like one of the splash offensive plays that you can go back to this performance in week 2 and say, okay, that worked. But we're not seeing it consistently, and I think that's where coach is going with the offense needs to get their mojo back. They need to play fast. They need to play fluid. We're just not seeing that yet.
All right, Mike Tomlin talked about Kenny Pickett when asked, and this is what he had to say about what he wants to see from number 8 moving forward.
I just want to see him continue to work in the manner in which he's been working, continue to communicate in the manner in which he's been communicating, and lead his group. He's done a lot of things well in preparation performance. He could play better. We all could play better. But procedurally, I like what I see from him. And usually when a guy procedurally is in the right spot, the performance soon follows.
And a lot of that still comes back down to offensive line, some of the things that are going on up front. It's everything combined, but the quarterback takes a lot of the criticism when things don't go well. I thought their run game, again, did not produce the kind of numbers you want, although Jalen Warren, every time he was involved in the pass game, he made some big plays. In fact, the third down play prior to the 71-yard touchdown was a third down conversion that he made sure happened.
Yeah, and Coach Tomlin was asked about him and just said, he's taking advantage of the snaps. He's a playmaker. He's just a really hard worker as well, and he's one of those guys that it seems like Kenny Pickett can count on in those tough situations, like you mentioned, that third down that they needed to convert. It was something that was just hampering them throughout the game, so it was good to see that going as well. But even just when he gets the ball in his hands and can run, we've seen what he can do in terms of his physicality.
Yeah, he's one of those guys who gets it and goes quickly. He doesn't hesitate, and he's made a big difference in that regard. In fact, he was their second leading receiver last night out of the backfield, which is a big component of his game. All right, we'll continue. Missy and I will talk some defense and other things coming up. A look ahead to the Raiders. It's all coming up as we continue right here on KDK Plus and all the Steeler digital platforms. We're back in a quick minute.
Gear up with game day necessities at the official Steelers Pro Shop located at Acrisure Stadium. Get the latest sideline gear, jerseys, terrible towels, memorabilia, and custom exclusives directly from the team. You can also gear up online at shop.steelers.com.
Alex, can you take us through that scoop and score that play?
Yeah, it was. We both kind of knew it was going to be play pass. It'll be a fun play to watch on film. We both got wide. Alex just had a phenomenal rush. I was coming off a chip, so I had a little bit of room to see the play process. And I just saw the ball come out. And thankfully, I didn't dive on it, and I was able to scoop it and score it, and the place went bananas. And like it did all night, the Steeler Nation was absolutely incredible.
TJ, where does this one rank for you and Alex as a tandem tonight?
Hopefully there's many more to come. I'm just so happy to be able to play with a guy that loves the game so much, and that's not taking anything away from any other guys that I played with. Everybody loves the game, but it's so cool to see his progression and his hunger. And the guy has so many phenomenal pass rush moves, and he can defend the run so well that we just really feed off of each other. And we're just happy when the other person makes a play. It's never a slight. I'm never upset when he makes the sack. I tried to give him the football for the sack fumble because how I see it is I just was in the right place at the right time and scooped it up. But Alex played phenomenal tonight, and I just want to continue to do this with him in this defense.
Pete Marv said when he was asked about replacing Cam, it was kind of there's like a next generation that needs to step up. How did you see those guys kind of rise to the occasion? Elijah had a big sack late. Joey had some nice plays. What did you see from the young guys in your defense?
Yeah, I thought they stepped up, and it's a huge stage to step up in. I mean, it was a crazy environment, Monday Night Football. The stage doesn't really get much bigger, and those guys have been working their tails off in practice all week. Like I said, I mean, those guys were at training camp with us. We trust them. We believe in every guy in that locker room. It's just a matter of putting it on tape, and it doesn't always matter if it's good or bad. It's just getting tape for those young guys and those guys that don't get a lot of snaps to be able to review, and I truly feel like we're only going to improve as a unit, and we go as they go.
TJ, your thoughts on just, as Coach Tomlin would say, didn't blink in the final portion of the fourth quarter, holding on to the lead, keeping Cleveland from being able to score. Your thoughts on just your team, your unit's resolve?
Yeah, I mean, when your back's against the wall, man, you have two options, and we just really want to be a team that fights back, especially as a defense. We want to be a defense that determines outcomes of games.
Experience the legacy of the Steelers like never before. Step into the Steelers Hall of Honor Museum at Acrisure Stadium. Explore over 10,000 square feet of Steelers history, rare artifacts, and interactive exhibits. Plan your visit today at Steelers.com/museum.
We gave up another big explosive run in this game, and you just simply can't do that if you want to play the type of defense that we desire to play and need to play. Field positioning, forget points. Field positioning is a major component of play. I thought particularly in the second half, we kept them on the long field, and the punting units and things had a lot to do with that, but the field positioning, a component of that is a specific reason why we can't have that. But just the ground control component, we got to be better than we've been.
Last week, it was Mike Tomlin kind of calling out Presley Harvin for his punting. I thought last night he was very good at it. He pinned them in deep, and that helped them out. But to his point, Missy, last week a big 65-yard touchdown run allowed to Christian McCaffrey. Last night it was Jerome Ford, 69 yards. Although he didn't score, he set up a score. And in 2 games, they've given up 386 yards on the ground. That's not Steeler football.
Right, no, not at all. I know you didn't have Cam Hayward last night, but you know that you're not going to have him for a number of weeks. They knew that going into the preparation that started for this game against the Browns. It's a team that you know. Nick Chubb obviously did not finish the game, but he even had a 20-yard run before he went out, and they were preparing for him and what he was able to do. Ford still had over 100 yards. You imagine what would have happened if Nick Chubb stayed in this game just because of what he was able to do there. But yes, agree, something they have to tighten up for sure. And TJ even gave credit to Presley Harvin during his press conference for what he was able to do to help the defense, who just felt like they were on the field the entire time. When you're able to back the Browns up and then you give them chances to get back in the game to reach midfield, that's where issues start popping up, and that leaves for a tired defense as well.
And you see some of the big holes that were created by the Cleveland offensive line, and this is an offensive line that was out without their outstanding right tackle in Jack Conklin, and yet they were able to do that, and of course took advantage of some of those field positions. And you know, while that was going on, certainly the bigger plays helped the Steelers. They came up with these, you know, game-changing plays, and when you get 4 turnovers against a team, you're doing some good work. And here's that run. Got to give Minka Fitzpatrick a lot of credit, because he really did somehow get back there and deny him a touchdown, which would have been big had they stopped him.
Right, and I also think too, you know, just looking back at the crazy things that happened in this game as well, but Deshaun Watson having 2 penalties, you know, that's something you don't typically see.
You don't see that, right?
And that obviously played into what was getting them into a funk as well.
Yeah, that's a rare kind of thing, but he, you know, afterwards he said it wasn't me, it was them, and if you look clearly, his hands were in the helmets. He was the guy initiating all of that, so I don't know what he was talking about. But you know, his play last night, not very good. You know, they gave a lot of draft equity up and a lot of money, $230 million. And so now without Nick Chubb for the rest of this season, a lot of this is going to fall on him. But you know, you talk about those big plays on defense. And TJ Watt just continues to do things that, even though you know he's going to do them, it's hard to stop him from doing them. It's not just the quarterback hits, the sacks, but it's tackle for losses. It's his presence on the field and how it helps so many other people around him.
Well, especially when you go back to last week against San Francisco, nothing was working in all 3 phases, and you just saw this switch go on from TJ, and he did everything physically in his power to try to change the momentum of that game against the 49ers. Him and Alex Highsmith both had that mentality last night, and it was cool to see just 2 guys always known as a tandem who work so hard together to be able to have those splash plays, to get into the end zone, and for TJ to break James Harrison's sack record when Debo was in attendance as well.
The total numbers are interesting. Those 2 combined, Highsmith and Watt, 11 tackles, 2 sacks, 3 tackles for losses, 6 quarterback hits, a pick 6, and a scoop and score.
Not bad.
Not bad. That takes you back to the days, right, of some of the great legendary linebacking play here in the Pittsburgh Steelers history. So now it's moving on to the Raiders, and a team that is different. They got a new quarterback. They got some new playmakers. They also have Robert Spillane on their team, and Mike Tomlin knows a lot about him, but this is a road game and their first home game, so it will be tough.
Yeah, it's interesting. The Steelers started their first 2 games at the comforts of home. The Raiders were the opposite way, but it's a Sunday night game. You're traveling through different time zones, and just knowing that you are going to face some really tough guys on those teams. I watched a little bit of the game against the Bills. You saw for them offensively, things weren't working as well, but they're going to be at home. It's going to be different for them. So week 3, here we come.
And I would expect a lot of black and gold in that stadium. I know
sure.
people are trying to go to the games. A lot of people are going to go there, but they don't even have tickets, and they don't seem to mind. They're just going to go there because it's Vegas. Hopefully that whatever that ransom thing is over with, and they can get into their rooms, though. That was a big story out there.
I have been reading about that, yeah.
All right, we'll take a break, come back, and focus ahead on the Steelers, who are now 1-1. Big road games coming up in the next 2 weeks. First up, it's the Raiders. We'll talk about it next right here as we continue with Mike Tomlin Tuesday on KDKA Plus and Steeler Digital platforms.
This crowd is alive. Wow, this has got to be a moment to be shared with everybody. Great catch, another magic moment. And this crowd's in a frenzy.
Have to be part of a defensive performance like this.
You know, it's special, coming out and, just kind of force we did, but, we were far from perfect. We would be much better for, I think, coming out and, making splash plays was huge for us. And, from the first play coming out, the crowd, we feed off the crowd, and the mission was, they were loud today, and we fed off of that. We're going to get playing some of that too, so I'm just thankful to go to war with these guys every single week. I'll go to you guys for the victory.
Why was this rush so effective tonight, specifically the outside?
Yeah, I think, we just did a good job of working together. When we work together, we're great up front, and we did that. We were working different games and stuff like that. We were communicating well, and so I think it starts first with communicating well and doing that. So that's how we're able to get after it.
You spent a lot of time with TJ Watt, with him setting the record tonight. What is it that makes him so special?
He's the best in the league at what he does. He shows up every week. Him coming out, it's week after week doing what he does. It's no secret. He works his butt off. Just being able to go to war with a guy like that is a blessing. She makes me better doing so. I'm thankful.
Was that ball falling in your arms on the first play of the game a blessing?
Yeah, it was. It was kind of in slow motion.
Is there any details to that?
Yeah, I was just dropping, and I thought Meek kicked it off. He just popped over. Oh, there it was. And I don't know. I saw some open guys that just took off. I was pretty tired after that play.
Score a touchdown?
I think that is my first one since
Alex, with them getting some of the yards that they got on the ground, how much did it help you that Presley gave you some long fields to work with there with those punts that he dropped?
Yeah, Presley's punting great tonight. And just put them on long fields was huge.
Want to get gear direct from the team? Shop all things black and gold at the official Steelers Pro Shop located at Acrisure Stadium. Get the latest sideline apparel and hats, jerseys of your favorite players, authentic memorabilia, custom gear, and exclusives you can only find here. Don't forget, you aren't game day ready without a terrible towel. The Steelers Pro Shop has everything you need to be part of the legendary Steelers Nation. Come experience the Acrisure Stadium shopping environment or shop online at shop.steelers.com.
We faced some of these challenging guys over the course of the first 2 weeks, and we've done a largely solid job of minimizing those, whether it's Bosa or Miles last night. Max is just as challenging. We've been in the stadium with him before. I think he had 4 hits on the quarterback a year ago. We just can't allow that to happen.
Now, you can't deny what the Steelers have done. Mike Tomlin talked about limiting the playmakers on other teams. Did it with Bosa. Now, granted, he had just signed his contract, hadn't any prep work, but he was not effective himself against 49ers. They certainly were, and that's maybe one of the problems when you focus on one guy. They did it against Garrett, and now you have the same situation with Max Crosby.
But to Coach's point, last year in that Christmas Eve game, the 4 quarterback hits, Chandler Jones also amongst their defensive line. They have to keep Kenny Pickett clean. And the offensive line, I think, just needs to, as we talked about in the preseason, it felt like they had gelled, but it seems like things are a little bit disjointed right now. And I think when you feel like the run game's not going, that's going to come hand in hand with it. But definitely are going to need to do a good job of helping Kenny for this one.
Yeah, the Raiders were in the game early, and then it was just a matter of not getting enough pressure on Josh Allen. And as such, he completed 31 of 37 for 274 yards and 3 touchdowns. And they allowed him to do what he does best, coming off a performance, I thought, the week before where he took too many chances in a loss that they had. But they can get to the quarterback, as you see right here. And, we talked about Robert Spillane, and he knows him pretty well. He's the guy who's in the middle of that defense. And as Mike Tomlin said, maybe it was because of the performance that Spillane produced against them last year that made them interested in him.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And we saw what, Robert Spillane, when you think about him in a Steelers uniform, you have to think of the Tennessee game, what he did to Derrick Henry. Not too many guys have that on their resume. But yeah, definitely somebody who is helping the Raiders defense as well. And, that was a game in Buffalo. That's not an easy place to play, but now they get to go home to Allegiant Stadium, and the Steelers have to travel and go on the road.
Now we switch to their offense, and, they are a team with a new quarterback in Jimmy Garoppolo, who's had all sorts of injury problems. But they do have Devontae Adams, and he's one of those matchup problems that you have to be aware of. And it'll be a test for their corners, the Steeler corner certainly, down the field with that guy, because he can get open. And I think you see that anytime you play that team, like you see right here. He gave them the first score of the game to make it 7-0 over the Bills, but obviously Buffalo came storming back.
Yeah, a unique talent for sure, and somebody they're going to have to key on. But I think, too, they haven't got their running game going with Josh Jacobs, something that was not the case last year. Maybe they're just starting slow as well to start up this season. But if you don't have the run game going, you know what they're going to do. So I think it is something that they're going to have to watch for. But having to prepare for Josh Jacobs, knowing what he's capable of doing.
Plus, knowing that he should be motivated, given his stat line last week. I've never seen one of these miss. He had 9 carries for -2 yards.
Negativity, as Coach Tomlin would say.
I mean, that's the kind of stat line you don't expect to see from a guy who led the NFL in rushing last year and got a 1-year deal coming back here. But you got to know that they're going to try to work to change that, and so the Steelers got to be on high alert to it. But this is a team that at home is a different team. If you look at their numbers over the years, they perform better at Allegiant Stadium, and that's going to be the challenge right off the bat. So first taste for a lot of young guys like Joey Porter, who played more. Mike Tomlin talked about he's going to get more. But he's also going to be in some high-stakes poker with some of these wide receivers.
Yeah, and you heard him after the game saying, I knew they were going to key in on me. I had it, the play going through my head, what I wanted to do, and he was successful. So you hope to see as he gets more snaps throughout the season that he's able to do that.
Did you notice my little poker reference to Vegas?
I did.
Okay.
That was cute.
We're going to go to break. We'll come back and talk about the injuries. In case you missed it, Mike Tomlin had an update on what happened last night, specifically to Minkah Fitzpatrick. We'll talk about that when we continue right here from the UPMC Rooney Sports Complex on the South Side.
Want to get gear direct from the team? Shop all things black and gold at the official Steelers Pro Shop located at Acrisure Stadium. Get the latest sideline apparel and hats, jerseys of your favorite players, authentic memorabilia, custom gear, and exclusives you can only find here. Don't forget, you aren't game day ready without a terrible towel. The Steelers Pro Shop has everything you need to be part of the legendary Steelers Nation. Come experience the Acrisure Stadium shopping environment or shop online at shop.steelers.com.
A couple massive plays from you tonight. Just how did it feel, especially that one at the end there to really seal things off?
Man, it felt great. First Monday night football game, got to spend it with my guys, and I got to end it off how I wanted to. So definitely pleased with it. We got the dub, so I'm happy right now.
Joey, did you expect them to come after you there at the end?
Yeah, I was the young guy on the field, 4th and 10. there's no better option but me to try me. So, I already had that game plan in my mind. I was ready and prepared for that.
Did you want that interception early?
Yeah, I did. I got to get that one. The first time in there, so I kind of had the little jitters, but next time I get that play, I'm going to make it for sure.
Joey, that last play, did you get that how you wanted it? Did you get hands on them and get your hips turned? And
say that again?
That last play, everything worked out like you wanted it to?
Definitely, got hands on him early at the line, and there was only one route he could do off that release, so I was already prepared to get the ball, my head around and get the ball back, but he threw out of bounds.
What's it like to be a part of a defensive performance like tonight?
I mean, it's great. Both our edges went crazy. They both scored touchdowns. They made impact plays, and they really gave us a chance to make plays on the secondary on the ball, in which we tried to do and capitalize.
For that play, and how good did that feel like to you?
It just felt good to win. Like I was saying earlier, just us keep working and us being composed to get the job done.
George, what led to the big play that you guys had on that 71-yard touchdown?
I think they played a 2 invert and left the middle of the field open. And then that's when I just struck.
As an offense, how much did you guys need to see a play like that work after it kind of felt like things had been storming out?
We see it all the time in practice, but it's just a great feeling when it's in a game. And I felt like I said, guys were composed defensively and offensively.
Is that a weight off your shoulders as you ran in to the goal line, past the goal line there on that touchdown catch? It just looked like you were so, I don't know if relieved this one.
Yeah, I just felt the energy of the team. It just felt good to win and make a splash.
Boy, oh boy, this crowd is alive. Wow, this has got to be a moment to be shared with everybody. Great catch, another magic moment. And this crowd's in a frenzy.
Bob Pompiani, Missy Matthews back with you. And in case you missed the beginning part of this press conference, Mike Tomlin addressed some of the injuries, and it was a brutal game last night, a typical AFC North kind of battle.
Yeah, there was a lot of guys in and out of the blue tent, bumps and bruises, able to go back into the game, but Gunnar Olszewski is in concussion protocol. We saw him not even able to come back to the field. Minka Fitzpatrick was dealing with that chest injury when he was trying to stop Jerome Ford from getting into the end zone on that 69-yard run. He was taken to the hospital for precautionary measures. Coach Tomlin said he's in the facility today, so that's a good sign. And then also Landon Roberts dealing with a stinger, said, that's something that usually takes a few days, but it is a short week, so we'll have to see, because I thought he played really well and had some big hits and big stops for the defense.
Especially at the goal line, the one play prior to their touchdown, but he stuffed it up real quickly, and they need more of that, certainly in the run game. And when you look ahead now, Minka Fitzpatrick's a key component. If he can play, that's great, because you're going to have some deep opportunities against Devontae Adams. But overall, 1-1 after 2 games, given the start they had, and given the fact you would imagine this offense should get better here, encouraging.
And it was a division win, so I think, it's even more important when you're able to take care of business in your division.
AFC football coming up next week. It's the Steelers and the Raiders. It's a Sunday night game, so not only a short week, but another night game. We'll be back here again next Tuesday for another edition of the Mike Tomlin press conference. So, Missy, thanks as always. Good to work with you. We'll see you a little bit later.
You got it.
All right, that's going to do it for Missy Matthews. I'm Bob Pompiani. Have a good rest of your day, and we'll see you tonight on KDKA TV at 4, 5, 6, 10, and 11. Have a good day.